Do we want to try a reaction video, or what do you think?
I say let's go for it. Let's see if we can
All
get
right.
this
All
get
right.
this
I
going.
want you to meet Reed
Biden
Uberman.
Oh,
visits Emmanuel AME
gross.
Church.
Oh Jesus. Okay, so have you heard of this guy?
I hate Milo Yiannopoulos. He's awful.
So
I remember when
so
he was
that's
first popping off, like some years back.
all right. So
Oh
you're gonna
man.
love Reed here. Reed calls himself indie thinker. Okay, you see the indie
Really?
thinker down here, indie thinker, and in
Uh-huh.
his description, in addition to an indie thinker, he is quote a Christian apologist.
Oh God. Those are always so fun.
So he's already a walking, talking contradiction.
Yeah.
Uh, he is very. I've checked out his Instagram. He is a committed believer, man. This guy really believes what he's saying, and that's why I argue like this is why it's so dangerous because this guy actually
Yeah.
comes across like someone you could have a decent conversation with if he would just leave the Jesus out of it, but he can't.
Yeah.
He can't. He can't. He actually, I think he actually has natural like empathetic instincts and
Mm-hmm.
wants to help people, but somewhere along the way he got convinced that hey, this whole hardcore Jesus thing works for me. It can work for everybody.
Mm.
And it'll make me feel really good if I can convince others to do what I do. So let's
Yeah.
see
There
what
there's nothing as scary as true believers, especially when they have power.
Joe Biden visits Emmanuel AME Church to pander for the black vote for 2024.
Probably turn up just a little bit.
All the internet grew strangely silent about Christian
There we go.
nationalism.
But the people are retarded.
What happened to
I
Rob
love
Reiner's
that
new
clip.
scathing documentary about the separation of church and state? Where are progressive Christians crying their eyes out that religion is combining with politics when Joe Biden does it? The only way to solve this is with a debate on the subject. And we'll look at a fascinating one today on Indie Thinker. If you're a fan of the show, if this show has been beneficial, is to give. And we humbly ask that you would consider Indie Thinker as a place where right now in the early stages of preparing a documentary on the epic, you can help us get to the finish, put this film together. If you want to
Jesus
not
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah,
support this
yeah.
channel and what we've done in the
Gotta do that
For There
promotion.
to Be life, it necessitates with the conclusion that based upon how much fine-tuning took place on our planet for there to be life, it necessitates that we believe that there is a designer behind it. Now,
No.
for those of you
No,
who have
no,
listened,
there's not.
Okay, so
No.
intelligent design, okay. Uh,
Who designed the
okay,
designer, dude?
so this should be replaced. There's actually a negotiation here to be had intellectually, okay, and the
Yeah.
negotiation is the concept of the prime mover, okay, because and that's just
Right.
another science calls it the singularity, which is just what's it called? The Big Bang. It's the original Big
Right.
Bang is
Yeah.
called a singularity. So you just say
Mm-hmm.
it's the prime mover that like it does have purpose. Like there is a force that originally created the universe, but it is beyond our comprehension. It is
Yeah.
beyond our comprehension. We have no tools, we have no ways of figuring it out, and they just
Yeah.
can't get past it. They have to create a
Right.
connection to the intellectual legitimacy of science.
The good old God of the gaps fallacy. Because we can't explain its origins, because we can't explain uh, the mechanism behind it, the originating factor of it, we're just gonna pretend it's God and just leave it at that. I mean, even
listen to the nation.
scientists, sorry, even scientists aren't going to like give you like a definitive, like concrete answer why, on why the universe was created. It doesn't need a
That's
why, you
that's
know?
not their purpose. That's not their purpose.
Exactly.
Their purpose is to understand how things work, how
Yeah,
like the relationship.
exactly. But like when um you use science against a Christian apologist and whatnot, they'll be quick to dismiss it. Oh, well, science is a religion too. No, the fuck, it's not. No, it's
Yeah.
constantly changing. Whereas religion has stayed the exact same for centuries.
Religion is, by definition, tradition, and
Exactly.
science is the pursuit of knowledge. Hey, we're back to
Right.
survivors versus explorers. Imagine that. All right, here we go.
Mainstream narrative, you will quickly mock that without even touching the book, which I would say is intellectually dishonest to say the least. However, for those who are a little bit more open-minded and willing to think for themselves, I would hope that you would be willing to consider the arguments that are made in that book. Now, what you won't find very surprising, probably, is that the intellectual community, the people at Iowa State University, where Guillermo Gonzalez was a professor on his way to being tenured, well, they didn't like the book very much, and it was highly derided by these people who do not practice viewpoint discrimination at all. And I can prove it to you. Not only from emails that were released from his colleagues, like this one by Dr. Bruce Harmon, that says, would have thought that an intelligent person would have at least kept quiet until after tenure. He will be up for tenure next year, and if he keeps up, it might be a hard sell to the department, but maybe not so difficult for his lawyers, who will certainly be retained by the Discovery Institute. The Discovery Institute, of course, is a group of intelligent design scientists, and you should also take note of the fact that right there in that one email you heard a professor critique freedom of association and freedom of speech. Now, you should also know that there was a statement released in 2005, just a year after the book was published, from Iowa State University Science Department, in which the professors were asked to sign off on a declaration that they do not posit anything close to intelligent design. Now, of course, those who came up with this statement said this has nothing to do with Guillermo Gonzalez's book on intelligent design. We just feel like we should come out right now, shortly after it was published, and make this statement. And then you should also know, shortly after the book was published, Guillermo Gonzalez was denied tenure by Iowa State University. Now, I can go on and give you story after story after story of other Christians who have also been ostracized from their positions of influence and their jobs simply because they're Christians.
Yeah, I mean,
This is it, dude. You go.
Because the thing is, like, there's nothing that reinforces the notion that there is an intelligent designer. It literally all comes down to feelings over because you want it to be true so bad, but you like you there's not any evidence for it. And if everything was intelligently designed, like all life on Earth and throughout the universe, which I'm sure your tiny little brain can't even fathom the scope and size of, who designed the designer? Has the designer always been there? Is the designer omnipotent or omniscient? Like there are too many questions rather than answers, and that's the thing with the Christian apologists. They they don't care.
So listen to the little magic trick he pulls here, though.
Story after story after story of other Christians who have also been ostracized from their positions of influence and their jobs simply because they're Christians.
Sure.
Okay, obviously victimhood. They're obviously doing victimhood, but there's also a logical problem here where it's like, no, dude, you're bringing your values to where they don't belong.
Yeah.
You're bringing your values to where they don't belong. You're not bringing your values, you're not being whatever.
There's no
beliefs.
Yeah, there's no science behind the idea that everything was intelligently designed by what you consider the Christian God. Like,
yeah, but I'm saying the narcissism. I'm saying like they can't. This is the hypocrisy. Is like it has to be about me and my relationship with Jesus. Everything is about that, and it's just It's not only, and it's miserable. It's like it's so narcissistic, and it's
right.
And yet a lot of people call it conditional love. It feels like it.
No, for real, and like clearly that kind of like conceptual thinking, which is not based in any science at all, clearly doesn't belong in an institution like that, like to begin with. Like, so you can't get upset when thinkers like that are rejected. It has nothing to do with the fact that they believe that. I mean, it's sure the problem is because they believe it, but science isn't about believing, dude. I mean, who is that woman? Kim Davis, who refused to sign like verify like a wedding certificate or something like that. She was let go from her government job or whatever. But it wasn't because of her beliefs. It's because her beliefs had no place in that institution.
Right.
But they have to bring it to some like just like you said, some sort of victimhood.
It isn't too hard to posit a world in which the academy is absolutely overrun with progressive ideology and indoctrinating students to one side of the aisle.
Okay. Yeah,
because students are fucking idiots, kids are idiots, and
Yeah.
they're so easily influenced that if you put them in the room with the wrong teacher, they might go gay on you. It is
Right.
absolutely. They have such low
Horrible.
opinions. They have such low
Yeah.
opinions of children. It's insulting. It's too
Big
bad
time.
the kids can't vote because if they knew what their parents thought of them, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Big time.
Don't get me started on homeschooling, man.
Oh God, no, exactly. It's like none of these people, like all these people who constantly harp away at colleges being communist indoctrination centers, none of them would survive a fucking semester at any of these, like at any like community college for crying out loud. Like if you had to take like 2 years there and like actually complete your the curriculum, their brains can't freaking handle it. It's like it comes back to what we were talking about earlier in the stream. Like the more exposure you have to different people, different modes of thinking, different cultures, different ideas, and whatnot. Like, yeah, you're going to be a whole lot more open-minded, meaning you're going to be a lot less conservative, and you're not going to hold such bigoted views towards people, like if you, that you don't understand. Like you get the more exposure you get, you're not going to hold such backwards, regressive, hateful like thoughts.
But this guy's got to be really fun at parties, don't you think?
God,
Don't you think this
probably
guy's a
the-
really
the
good time at
best.
parties?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he's doing keg stands. He's freaking cracking jokes. This
Oh.
guy is Christian charisma. Right
Oh yeah,
here.
absolutely. He's scoring all the girls. He's in the back doing lines of coke. He's doing backflips into the pool. Absolutely.
Rudolph, dude. I'd call him Rudolph to his face if I ever saw him in person.
In all, I hope we can take away at least this assessment, that the Academy today has no problem with Christians being professors and being even tenured. That is, unless they become vocal about their faith. They are perfectly fine with quiet Christians, but the moment they start to actually speak out in an authoritative manner on their faith, well, then that is too much to handle. That's why today I think it's important for us to have a conversation about Christian nationalism. Is Christian nationalism just simply an ad hominem attack for vocal Christians, or is there something more to it? Is it the fascist wing of a religious ideology that is trying to overtake America? In order to answer that question, I think it's important to hear debate from Milo Yiannopoulos and Destiny on the subject. Check it
I
out.
think the
How
answer
dare you
is
show up here
obvious, but let's
offering
hear
anything
it.
but sympathy? It's outside the scope of our evening this evening to prove or disprove the truth of Christianity or Christ or whatever. But I'll make a few points. There is no America without Christ.
Can we
And the
pause
reason
it
for that
real
is
quick?
that this is an intrinsically and
I think it's really funny, like just the huge turn that this guy has taken over the past several years. He came out as the most flamboyant gay conservative daddy that was just loved because he was sticking it to the lefties. He was sticking it to all the crybaby social justice warriors. And then he defended pedophilia within the church, and his career went fucking bye-bye. And now he's trying to like flip a 180 and go all religious and denounce his homosexuality. And it's become this entirely new grift because he wants the attention. He wants to continue his career, and it's pretty pathetic. So I'm interested to see what kind of bullshit he's going to fling our way.
a few points. There is no America without Christ. And the reason for that is that this is an intrinsically
Yeah,
and
there
fundamentally
is.
Christian
Shut up,
nationalist
dude.
country, by which we mean it's built into the architecture of the nation. There's no getting away from it. You can lie about it. You can pridefully claim that, you can be good people without Christ. You can't. You're just inheriting
Oh
a
my
system
God.
of good and evil from the culture in which you grew up, which accords with the natural law. America was founded, as Adams told us, with a constitution that is wholly unsuited to the governance of anyone but a moral and religious people. Do you think that America is comprised of a moral and religious people today? Obviously it is not. And what he meant specifically was Christianity, because the way that America is set up outsources morality to Christianity. And without it, it doesn't work. Because jury trials don't
Oh
work
my
when
God.
people vote with race instead of conscience. Everything in America presupposes The legal system, the social system, the government, everything in America presupposes the existence of the Judeo-Christian God. Without that, it all comes tumbling down. And without that, it is coming tumbling down. And without that, we're not able to give people who have
Oh my
terrible
God.
sicknesses and weaknesses and defects the help that they
Of
need.
course.
Instead, we hand them victimhood scripts and they shoot up schools, they shoot up churches, whether they are young white guys on antidepressants or whether they're transgender people who are told that it's white Christians are responsible for all of their miseries. It is Christianity that keeps us nice to each other, that keeps us being good to one another.
I
And
see.
if you
I
top it
see.
out,
Okay. So,
This is in
so
line.
it's-
This is in line. Have you ever heard a conservative say, "Well, if we don't use the Bible to establish a foundational set of cultural values, what are we gonna use?" It's like, well, there's plenty of other philosophy out there, and you can actually extrapolate the lessons and put them in secular terms. But they have to keep it in Christian language so that it's about them.
Exactly. He says, "Oh, it's speaking of lies, it's the outright fucking lie that America was founded on Judeo-Christian values. So America was founded on secularism. They thought that our founding fathers thought that if we became like a theocratic state, then that only adhered to one sect of beliefs. Excuse me, one religion. Like there would be." I forget exactly. Of course, there would be fucking no growth, but
So one thing
absolutely
that I
drives
talked
me
about,
up the wall.
one of the things I talked about in most recent video was just the contextual argument for
Mhm.
why America was not founded on Judeo-Christian values. And it's just obvious that there were these history, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, dominated by European wars. Europe was at war for all of it. It was all but 50 years in those 250 years.
If you
And
wa-
so why, and it was all religious wars. They were all religious wars. So why would the founders
Yeah,
bring that baggage across
exactly.
an ocean? And there's just, they don't think like that though. They're like, oh,
No,
well, they don't
of
think
course not.
they think of the founders as like angels or saints. Like they deify them so that they can be closer with the deities. They're
Yeah,
closer to God. God's their buddy and not yours, and definitely not mine.
it's pieces of shit like this that want to take us back to the dark ages. Just another fucking regressor. It like if you seriously, if your psychopathic ass seriously needs an ancient text written by man to know whether or not murder is wrong, taking another life is wrong, or rape is wrong. I mean, which I'm sure the Bible actually condones. Then, you're not arguing in good faith at all. You just want people to adhere to your scripture. You don't actually believe that people are good without what about the countless people in countries all over the world that don't adhere to the Christian theology or the ideology that's found within the Bible, like the morality within the Bible. There are plenty of countries, and they're actually a whole hell of a lot more safer and less crime ridden than America, which is a very Christian, mostly Christian
Culturally, yeah.
country. Exactly, and they don't have a fucking answer for it. You can go ahead.
as
We
happened
can
in
probably keep
1776,
it
you have a really big
at
problem on your hands because I'm going to
1.5
say something very
speed, too.
radical and difficult to say in Tennessee of all places. There are freedoms afforded to Americans that are too radical and too great and too daring without the
that's
insulation
wow.
of Christianity. The First and Second Amendment.
What, you got
Like,
something?
the fact that he even dares to even say that Americans are have too much freedom and whatnot is it speaks too many privileges. I forget exactly what he said right there, but it just goes to show
to say in Tennessee of all places, there are freedoms afforded to Americans that are too radical and too great and too daring without
too radical,
the
too great,
insulation of Christianity. The First and Second Amendments don't work unless everyone's Christian. They don't work, and they're not working. They're not
What
working.
the hell are
can't
you
give
talking
crazy
about, dude?
atheists
What does that
guns.
even mean?
You can't let shameless liars say whatever they want about other people in public without consequence. There's a sort of
All right, I'm gonna
unwritten
go-
rule that sits behind
Yeah,
everything in America.
we'll go.
I'm gonna go forward to his reaction. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's go ahead and do it. I
And it
can't
is that
stand listening to
these
this
are
piece
all
of shit anyway.
or prayer around town like she's common property. America doesn't work when we behave that way because we'll all just end up murdering each other.
Now, throughout right there from Milo, you heard some really fascinating arguments, in my opinion, and I'm not saying that simply
He's
because I'm a Christian
definitely on
or
a
because
whole
I believe the
bunch of
Bible is true
uppers,
or that
that's for
Jesus is who
sure.
he says he is. I'm saying this simply from a logical perspective. In order for a functioning society to truly work, there needs to be a limiting principle on basically everything. Let me give you an example. Freedom is not freedom if there is no limiting principle upon freedom. There needs to be limits to freedom, so you can't be free.
Thank you. I learned this in second fucking grade, dude. Are you serious? Of course, I do not have
Oh,
the freedom to go fucking kill someone, and there's a limitations on freedom. What an idiot.
You go
Yeah,
kill whoever you want to just
obviously.
because they make you angry or cut you off in traffic. There is
And
a
it's
limit to
not-
your
and
freedom.
it's
You
nothing
take
to
matters
do
into
with
your own hands, and you will
Christianity
find yourself
either.
quickly in a jail cell. You shouldn't be able to.
So I'm big on the high school metaphor. Okay, I'm big on it. I think it can really we'll talk more about it. Why I think it's so useful, but just the high school metaphor here is that remember how like there would always be that like one or two students and maybe more who like would ask the stupid questions or and drag or repetitive questions and drag the class down, and the class couldn't get as much done in the time. There'd always be like and so the teacher would have to like teach to them first until they got it. We couldn't move on. You know what I mean? Well, that's what these people are. That's what evangelical Christians are. They're they are the kids in class who can't think outside of their own framing that they grew up with. And they just try as they might. Wait a second. It's not all about Jesus? Yeah, it's not all about Jesus. You know why? Because it's not all about you.
Exactly.
Be able to abuse children just because they are pesky and they walk on your lawn. There should be a limiting principle to our freedoms so that we are not going around and changing our freedom into anarchy. And historically speaking, in our country, whether you like it or not, the limiting principle that has been placed upon things like freedom and other ideas in America has been the Judeo-Christian ethic. Christian morality and values has been the limiting principle to keep us as a society held together. Now, I can't help but see that there is a communist.
So the roots of that really, in terms of really, like you want to get into the culture of what he's talking about here, the history of that culture, it's the WASPs versus the Catholics. Okay, it was before all there was a huge amount of time in this country where Catholics were not to be trusted, and my people ran the show. And that's actually where that comes from, that good Judeo-Christian work ethic. Nah, bruh. That's the WASP work ethic, bruh. If you go back and trace the origins of that cultural concept, that is where it comes from. So he's not even right. If you're going to be an arrogant, entitled Christian and think it's all about you, dude, get it right. Know your goddamn history.
Yeah.
Communist / Marxist / postmodern kind of ideology causing us to totally throw those past Christian moral virtues to the side and trying to posit something else in their place, and they are not working. And this is where John Adams' quote comes in, and Milo kind of referenced it, that our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people, and it is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. In order for America to work, it presupposes Christian values. Now, you may disagree with that. You may hate Christian values, but you're going to have to posit something else in its place, and that's where we truly have America at its finest, when it's working like it's supposed to.
Wait, hold on. Let me just, can you Google, while we keep watching, can you Google John Adams Christian quote? Because there's a question where he says there's something like, it is in no way a Christian nation.
Fine. If you don't think Christian morality and values should be the limiting principle upon a society, well then do your best. Step to the plate and posit what limiting principle should be instituted. And if you can't come up with anything better, then maybe you should just go back to the dugout and be quiet. So ultimately, it's a question of...
So he says our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Let's see.
Yeah, but he also said it has nothing to do with it. It's okay. But did you just hear what he just said? He's so arrogant. You should go. He's like, if you can't come up with a better set of values than my Christian values, then shut the hell up. That's what he just said.
Be the limiting principle upon a society, well then do your best. Step to the plate and posit what limiting principle should be instituted. And if you can't come up with anything better, then maybe you should just go back to the dugout and be quiet. So ultimately,
so don't
it's a
even take a swing.
What is a limiting principle?
So just be a quitter. If you're not, because winners are Christians. You see that? Beautiful, beautiful. Winners take swings and hit home runs. You're the man, Reed. Yeah, you're a freaking real badass, dude, with your stupid metaphors, bro. Stay in fucking Florida where you belong.
Principle in society. What can we truly posit as a means by which we do not harm others? I mean, it used to be the Hippocratic Oath for people in the medical community, and I'm not so...
By the way, I want to make sure it's the swamp, the Florida, the white trash Florida interior North Florida.
Yeah.
It's like, very specific type of Florida. I love lots of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
I think you muted it.
To transgender surgeries. Suffice to say, medically, what can we truly posit as a means by which we do not harm others? I mean, it used to be the Hippocratic Oath for people in the medical community, and I'm not so sure anymore, especially as it pertains to transgender surgeries. Suffice to say, you will have to come up with a
Yeah. Like let's not just go after the teachers' unions and the teachers. Let's go after the doctors too while we're at it. What a bunch of fucking bullies.
Yeah, it's like you ask him, he clearly doesn't know jack shit about what it means to transition or what it means to be young and be transgender, or the fact like the overwhelming majority, like 90 something percent of young people who transition are happier that way, and the overwhelming consensus, like he gives a fuck about medical consensus or scientific consensus.
But don't you see what he's doing?
Indicates.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it indicates that like youth transitioning, like even hormone replacement therapy, greatly contributes to a reduction in suicidal ideation.
So no, I'm going to play it again, this part, but this drives me nuts. So listen to the subtext. Like, yes, everything you said is true, but what really drives me crazy and what I think you can really draw attention to, this is like judging, MLK said, judged by the content of their character, right? Well, let's look at the content of his character based on what he just says.
Yeah.
Just go back to the dugout and be quiet. So ultimately, it's a question of what is a limiting principle in society? What can we truly posit as a means by which we do not harm others? I mean, it used to be the Hippocratic Oath for people in the medical community, and I'm not so sure anymore, especially as it pertains to transgender surgeries. Suffice to
Oh, you're not so sure anymore about one of the most, if not the most important part of a modern society, because a handful of doctors are performing transgender surgeries. You're willing to consider writing off the smartest people in our fucking society because they're not in line with what you think someone should do or do not do with their body. What a fucking judgmental. See, this is it, bro. This is the thing, and I'm going to keep saying, I'm going to be really repetitive about this one and tell me if you get sick of hearing it. But the biggest sin, the worst sin a real Christian can commit is wanting to be God.
Mm-hmm.
And this motherfucker
Yeah.
is committing every moment of condescension out of his breath.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he invokes that stupid little tone that like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know anymore. It's like, dude, you're not
Yeah.
smart. You're not smart. And everybody knows it.
Yeah, he's not like he's not like unique either when it comes to these kinds of Christians. They will literally use Jesus and the Bible and their Christian faith and belief to justify their bigotry, and to justify atrocities and their own ignorance. And there's no depths that they would not plumb to like show like just the darkness of the depravity within them.
So Thunderbird, I want to give him some love. This guy's great. He said, James Madison, quote, "The purpose of separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe with blood for centuries." Just like I was talking about, those hundreds of years of war leading up to the founding of the country. They were all well educated. All the framers, like over half of them were college educated, and the really sophisticated thinkers like Franklin and Adams and Jefferson, they all had like philosophy under their belt. Like they knew history. And John, oh wait, here he comes again. John Adams to Thomas Jefferson, April 19th, 1817. This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. Amen to that. And you know what religion isn't? Spirituality. Nothing wrong with spirituality. Everything wrong with religion.
Yeah, and even John Adams himself was like a Christian man, But thinkers like Franklin and James Madison and Thomas Paine, especially, like probably my favorite founding fathers, understood the importance of separating church from state, and like if we're going to be originalists, if we're going to be um uh if we're going to harp away on the claim that like Judeo-Christian values or what founded this country, how do you account for those particular founding fathers and what they have said? And of course, they just ignore it. They just cherry pick what they like, just like the Bible, and they run with it.
And so I think getting back to the WASP foundation of this, just so people understand, at least from my experience and my education, okay, which, you know, an Episcopal priest was the head of my private high school growing up. And that old Protestant work ethic, the WASP work ethic that I was talking about, right? It's kind of like life. You've got work and then your family and all the other shit, and then you get to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a hardcore Protestant, that'll take care of all the other personal shit in your life. That'll tell you how to manage relationships, how to manage these big questions and so forth, so you can get back to focusing on work. So they say like good Christian citizens, it really just means good hardworking citizens. And they just
Yeah.
they keep it private. They show up at church, they give money to the church, and it's all good, but they mind their own goddamn business, and they don't try to put their values into the government itself.
Exactly.
Suffice to say, you will have to come up with a limiting principle. Let's see if Destiny has the goods to do it himself in this next clip.
Today, we've got viewers gathered from all across the world tuning in to a debate between me and Milo, where Milo is going to argue that we should turn the USA into an isolated, authoritarian, zealously religious country. I think that technology is a Pandora's box that has changed this country and this world forever, and I don't think we're ever going back to the days of public squares and mail service by horse. Cultural exchange is happening, whether you like it or not, quite literally at the speed of light. Even right now, potentially hundreds of thousands or even millions of people around the world are listening to me and Milo have this debate. The only way to stop this type of cultural exchange is through the militant authoritarianism that Milo was talking about on this stage. That might be through his being against the First Amendment, that might be against his taking away of the Second Amendment, and that might be through the institution of a state religion. This means the destruction of our freedom of speech, our ability to produce media, satire, and comedy, and our ability to communicate openly on the social media platforms we've all unfortunately grown addicted to. After Milo gets his way and abolishes the First Amendment, is he going to be the one deciding who we can or cannot make fun of on Twitter? Is the world really going to return to how it was before birth control, before women had the right to work, before gay people were allowed to get married, before we were allowed the ability to freely worship whatever God we wanted, or abstain from worship altogether?
Progressives are always right eventually, just
For real.
like Starks, man. Women's vote, minority vote, gay rights, all of the social issues, progressives were there first.
I reckon that we cannot close Pandora's box. Christian nationalism, as it stands today, isn't even a coherent ideology. The proponents will argue whether there's an ethnic component, whether one needs to be Catholic or not, and whether one needs to even be a Christian or a supporter at all in order to idolize somebody for a Christian nationalist ideology. How many more porn stars does Donald Trump need to work his way through behind his wife's back before Christian nationalists stop worshiping him as their savior? As small as Christian nationalism is as a movement, even with it being as small as it is, there is still endless infighting. Anyone who's taken a gander recently at Milo, Ali Alexander, or Fuentes' Telegram account can attest to that. And now, with an already fractured and fighting minority movement, some want to put even more restrictions, such as race, lineage, sexuality, LGBT status, or geography on who ought to be allowed to join their movement. The glory days of Christianity are largely over. While the number of worshippers have ebbed and flowed through time, it's impossible for us to return to where we came from. In 1999, almost 70% of Americans were part of a church, synagogue, or mosque. And just 20 years later, in 2020, according to Pew Research, that number has fallen to just 47%, a minority of the population for the first time in U.S. history. We need to be realistic about the coming years. We need to help our young men and women find purpose in the world, stop pretending like some Christian nationalism is the answer. We need to find ways to get our young people engaged with their friends, family, and their communities in ways that synergize with the technological explosion the entire world has experienced.
Okay, now good message. Now he's getting into like the culture war, and he's kind of fighting back on the culture war. It's like, yeah, you think your way is the best way? Well, let me give you some specific ways that it could actually be better. And I like where he's going. Problem is political marketing. Okay, is the dude with the blue hair gonna be pulling off this argument to like to the normies?
Right. I mean, like I have my issues with Destiny. I think he says a lot of dumb shit sometimes, but like his messaging isn't necessarily incorrect here. And he does kind of flirt a little bit with the hard right wing online, terminally online types sometimes. But like overall, like he's completely correct. Like he's basically saying like exactly what I would be saying in this scenario. Like it really is just like the fact of the matter that people like Milo and the people that still continue to prop his ass up are the regressors and don't give a fuck about freedom. They don't want to conserve anything. They want to regress. They want to go back to uh, uh, when America was less fucking progressive, when there were fucking less rights for its citizens, and it's really not hard to see, like at all, if you pay close enough attention.
If Christian nationalists want to continue to practice Christianity in America, then I say we let them. However,
Yes.
we should never allow them to take away our right not to do the same.
Exactly.
If the movement
And let's tax the fuck out of the churches.
Yes.
that no, not all of them, just the aristocratic churches, just the churches that have, like, I don't know what the number is, but those, who's that guy, Joel Osteen? Oh,
Yep.
Joel.
Oh yeah.
Joel, I hope you
Milk
see.
him for millions.
Joel, I hope your people see this someday by digging through my old stuff, because I made something of myself on this platform and I become a concern to you. And I want you to know that I know who you are. You think you know who I am, but trust me, you don't. And just like our relationship, your relationship with America is such that you think you know who she is, and you don't. But I do. So
Right.
shut the fuck up and listen. The master of the shit-eating grin in Christianity. Oh my God.
For
Yeah,
real.
it's too. I can't wait for Indie Thinker here to do some content on Joel Osteen. Oh my God, I'm foaming at the mouth. All right.
Yeah.
Did you have anything, or did you want me to go back to it?
No, let's go for it.
such as it is, I didn't realize there was one, but if Christian nationalism is not yet adequate,
Allow them to take away our right not to do the same.
if the movement, such as it is, I didn't realize there was one, but if Christian nationalism is not yet adequately defined, it's because nobody used it before 2 years ago, which it seems to me to be perfectly reasonable. Trump is not a religious leader in any sense, and you're making a classic mistake of people who don't understand religion, don't understand God, and don't understand their own country when you say hold Trump up as a kind of moral example.
Don't understand God. There it is. Who's tight with God, dude? You or me? Or
Yeah.
this guy? This
That's-
guy,
that-
right? I'm close with
that's-
God. I'm special. I'm fucking special.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. It's like people like this, people who are white, straight, cis Christian conservatives. They don't want to hear it from the blue-haired freaks or the minorities or the gays. But when it's white Anglo-Saxon Protestants that are delivering the same message that they are, then they start paying attention. Like, and that's what's, honestly, since I even like came across your stuff, that's like what's really I guess caused a spark, like something clicked. It's like, okay, they think you're one of them, or they could be made to think you're one of them, but you're not. And I think that could be like very valuable, especially when engaging with people like this in the future. Also, I just want to point out, for someone who's really trying to who's put on the facade of being an ex-gay, Milo's looking fucking fabulous right now. Like, what the fuck? Like all right, let's go for
Render
it.
unto Caesar. We don't expect that our presidents should be like Jesus because they're not here to do Jesus' job. So no. It's interesting to talk about women's rights. I mean, Christianity is the... Sorry, I mean, I just don't know how hard to go in, really. I mean, you're talking about the religion that gave women consent in marriage. You're talking about the religion that gave women the right to say no, that elevated them from chattel into human beings. You want to return women to chattel. You want women to be like your wife, passed around town.
The biggest symptoms, the most frequent symptoms of narcissism are denial and projection.
For real. Like, are you kidding, dude? Like, women are wives are entirely the property of their husbands according to the Bible, dude.
Well, that's the thing, is you can find, the Bible's a big document, so you can find,
Of course.
whatever you need to, really, to make any kind of argument.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to take moral lectures on the rights of women from somebody who treats supposedly their wife in what ought to be a holy sacrament as a communal sex toy.
This is ridiculous.
What
If someone,
the fuck are you talking
yeah,
about?
he's talking about how Destiny has like an open relationship in his marriage or something. I think that's I'm pretty sure that's what he's talking about.
Is Milo trying to say that there's not polygamy in the Bible or people with multiple wives in the Bible? Like,
okay, so this is a good like moment to see like what do you think? Like you obviously have the Will Smith example of you could handle it that way, but I mean if someone ever talked about my wife in a debate like that, I mean. I'd be like, okay, we'll finish this debate, and then we're gonna have a private conversation after this because that shit is unacceptable. That's absolutely ridiculous to go after some guy's wife. I don't care how weird looking he is.
Sad.
Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm not going to take moral lectures from somebody who, for all intents and purposes, may as well have a fleshlight instead of a wife. Who demeans and besmirches her honor.
He has no argument.
He's such the moral superiority, and there you go. That's what abortion is too. Moral superiority. Once again, narcissism. Narcissism.
Yeah, that's all they have
with superiority.
They don't have actual arguments.
Who
they don't
speaks
have
about
substance.
a woman who should be treated with the reverence and respect and love that we treat our own mothers with, like she was something you could buy, like she's something that just to get off with, passed around to other men while you watch, flicking yourself off. So forgive me if I decline to take any lectures from you on women's bloody rights. As for gay rights, no thanks.
I mean, good for Destiny for not saying anything and interrupting and like losing his shit because clearly that Milo's a dirty. He is a dirty fighter, man.
Right.
And that is like, I mean, that is grounds like, dude, like, of course you're using your. It's like, I mean, if somebody talked to my wife or about my wife like that in the public things, like, really, you're gonna go personal. You're gonna go this hard into the personal, and that's your argument.
Yeah, Destiny knows that Milo is far beneath him, like especially at this point in his career. So, yeah, like I would assume Destiny's just letting shit bounce right off of him.
Yeah, he's just laughing at it.
No thanks. I didn't want them when I was having sex with men, and I don't want them now. Catholicism and Islam are growing, in case you aren't familiar with the world outside these borders. And the reason for that is that everybody sees what a bloody mess we're all in, thanks to globalization, thanks to the information economy, thanks to the kinds of changes that he says are inexorable. Because, like a lot of undereducated people, he doesn't have much of a grasp of the world before he was born. I think if you were to glance at the...
Let's take a look at the statistics surrounding education and political dispositions, my man. You want to talk about uneducated people.
A little further back, whether it were to ancient Greece, or Rome, or the Holy Roman Empire, you would see plenty of examples in history, or even, dare I say it, the Weimar Republic. A little bit closer to our own era, in which...
Denial and projection.
An era of rampant sexual degeneracy was indeed replaced by some quite stern social rules, to put it mildly.
Yeah, like industrial killing.
What happens when the public gets sick of people like you fucking everything up, breaking everything apart, and destroying all the things that make society precious, that make relationships work. In fact, if you are to look back in history as far as Greece and Rome, you might say that history is really the story of how people like you, given undue influence and larger platforms than they deserve, continually express views that are so far outside of the mainstream and so out of step with what ordinary people think that you...
Like the women's vote, like the black vote, like the minority, like, I mean, come on, man. I mean, this guy, like, he thinks, and this is the testament to the intellectual weakness of right-wingers, is that he gets away with it with his acting skills. He's got really good, he's a character actor.
No, for real. He thinks himself into multiple corners, and he doesn't actually believe anything he says. He just says it multiple times to himself, so that way he comes off as fitting in with the dogma of right-wing ideology. He's completely fucking disingenuous. Like, he's completely full of shit.
Grifter.
That you have to be regularly slaughtered, and new governments have to be installed, and coups have to be engaged in, just to keep people like you in line, because otherwise we'd all be dead. So I'm sorry, but I'm certainly not going to take any kind of moral lectures from you on anything.
Because I am morally superior to you.
So far, he hasn't made any
a few
points.
examples of why everything you just said is complete and absolute nonsense. But let me tell you, if your memory stretches back, and as a university or an educated person, it should be further than 1980. You absolutely can put it back in the box, and we must, and we should, because otherwise America is done.
I'm fascinated by this kind of Pandora's box argument that we, because of our Christian virtues, somehow want to thrust the world back into the 1950s, and technology has exposed Christianity and shown how frivolous it is, and now we no longer need it anymore because something akin to because we have like Facebook. Like, if anything, social media has proved how much we need Christianity. Only thing.
How? Like, why? What? Like, for what purpose, dude? Like, why?
Because social media has facilitated the relationship between Donald Trump and the right-wing religious group.
It's
Sorry,
like what?
the religious right in America. How
Because
can you
of
possibly say?
the advent of the internet and social media has made it to where like there's a public debate about uh, the scope of Christianity and its incompatibility with advancing as a species, or the fact that like you literally can't even like prove that there is an existence of any deity of any religion. Oh, is it because of the internet now? Is because of the advent of the internet, atheism has become a whole lot more prominent, which is where I come from, and they're poking holes in all your in all the arguments that Christian apologists cling to, like out of desperation. Is that the actual problem? Because I don't think it has nothing. I don't think it has anything to do with uh like, social media at all. Like social media isn't why Christianity is falling apart. It's because of Christianity. It's because you guys don't have the arguments. It's because you have nothing to actually back up your beliefs because it's not based in reality. And every debate that you engage in it with non-believers or atheists or whatever, you come out looking worse than they do. Now, obviously, debate is an art, so like it doesn't really always come down to what's factual or not. It's just you don't your arguments are not there, and you can't stand that. So so that's why there's fucking Christian apologists like this guy.
I love how he just said. I mean, there's a lot of things going on with social media. One of the things I think that's
Of
obvious is
course.
that the ugliness was always there. It's just
Yes,
the social media has made it more visible,
exactly.
and
That's
it's just like
exactly it.
we're coming to terms with how ugly people are, and it
Right.
sucks. And it's like, oh, it's like I don't want to think about that. I mean, so these are the types of people that like
Oh,
can't
man,
get down,
dude.
that can't. This guy watched Eddie Murphy Raw, for example, which is one of the most legendary stand-up acts ever. If you haven't seen it
I've
already,
seen it.
yeah. So
I've seen it, yeah.
this guy would walk out of the theater if he saw that. I mean, this is the
God,
stick up his
right.
ass type of Christian. He sucks, and he's
Yeah,
saying, yeah, okay,
big
fine.
time.
Social media has made it more visible, has made the ugliness more visible. Maybe he would probably agree with that. But then he would be like, well,
Sure.
then he says the answer is obviously Christianity. The answer is
Yeah.
obviously what
Yeah.
the answer is obviously what I'm already doing. The answer is obviously about me.
Yeah.
It's fucking childish.
More regression, more control over other people's behaviors and
But I'm
thoughts
telling you,
and feelings.
I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, go to the child thing when you talk to other people about this shit. I don't think people see conservatives as intellectual children, and if they did, they would be more worried about the future, because if Trump wins this year, man, God only knows what's going to happen in
Yeah,
this country.
they're literally just children.
OnlyFans is not helping us like move into the 21st century with pride and with
I bet his wife is on OnlyFans.
values and morality. Technology in no way, in my mind, disproves Christianity. This seems to be nothing less than kind of an Enlightenment talking point. So you're going to have to ask yourself throughout this conversation, which is more likely? This blue-haired, very smart, and I'll give you that.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Of course he says something about Destiny's blue hair. I told you.
Yeah.
I told you.
Right.
Very smart guy is absolutely right. Christians are a bunch of Luddites that want to thrust us back into the Middle Ages, or that technology actually necessitates that we have a deeper and more thoughtful conversation of morality, and that destiny is actually full of crap. Now, my biggest problem throughout this debate is that I find Milo, who is a provocateur to be sure, actually way more thoughtful throughout all of this debate, actually providing
What the
examples
hell?
and digging in a little bit
You
deeper
have
than
to be
superficial kind of arguments
delusional
to
to
explain
think
what
that-
he's talking about. And Milo actually cares about history a little bit here, whereas throughout, and I think this is a fair assessment, you can put that in the comment section below if you don't believe so, throughout, I feel like Destiny is just merely saying things and then never defining his terms and then expecting these things to magically come out of nothing. So for instance, he constantly uses the word purpose and meaning, but does not ever give an argument from where purpose and meaning can come from a secular humanistic standpoint.
Insane.
How about
This is
reading
just
history,
sad.
dude? How about reading history to understand what constitutes a fair society? Because we have a few examples, and like, look at the world. The happiest people in the world are Scandinavians, either from Denmark or I'm pretty sure it's Denmark's #1, but the other Scandi countries are all very high up there, and it's because they have nice and low expectations for life, and they're all very well educated people. They're thinkers, man. They think their way through a lot of these big questions. And I'm telling you, just like children, like they start asking those really like basic questions about life, they need those answers and they need the certainty. Frank Schaeffer talks about certainty addiction. This guy's a certainty addict. He's the sociopathy,
for
man.
real.
This is how you become a sociopath. Is you believe in something so much that he's like, I'm willing to give my life.
Yeah, you're willing to work backwards from your predetermined conclusions on everything. You're like that's where your foundation is, your ideology, your conclusion about life, the universe, and everything. And you're gonna work backwards from that and post hoc justify all your beliefs so that way it can be aligned with that. It's just fucking bullshit. And the fact that he thinks that Milo was in any way coherent to begin with is beyond delusional. Like he was just spewing garbage against the wall to see what sticks, and was like gish galloping his whole way through. He didn't even have like an actual fucking response. I'm fucking sure this guy knows that. Like, there's no way he doesn't.
And in our next clip, I think I'll show you why he can't argue that. So check it out.
I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to respond to. I think it's a little funny that
right?
Apparently I'm so far outside of what people regularly think, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure I'm giving you a bigger audience than you've had the past several years post your cancellation.
But okay, more of that. Like more. Like they do those little. Like they cut with knives, let's cut with swords. Okay, Michelle Obama. Sorry, I like the spirit of it, but when they go low, I'm kicking them in the teeth.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not like the stakes. The stakes of the conflict are way too high. I don't care about their feelings anymore. I can't. We can't. The second we start to care about their feelings, we're screwed.
They say never kick someone when they're down, but if they're going low anyway, you might as well get them while they're fucking down there, you know? Fuck.
especially if they're packing heat or carrying a knife, you know, they don't know what they got. And, hey man, winning a fight's all about getting that first advantage. If someone goes low on you and you dodge the attack, kick them in the teeth.
I mean, even just fucking like rhetorically too, like sinking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Of course. Okay. I just want to make sure. All right.
But I see that this is what the dying throes, I guess, of an internet provocateur, as he self-described himself back when you were writing on the alt-right, and when you were writing on Trump. Now, I guess you're not writing on guys anymore because apparently you prayed away the gay. So whatever you're doing now. But I won't get into all that. I'll take the high road, despite the fact that you're one of the most obsessed with my wife's vagina gay guys I've ever seen in my entire life. Which is very fucking weird, but very strange.
All right, Destiny. I have the personality I have. Sort of stuck with it now. Now your question, Destiny.
Poor baby.
Oh my God. That's just exposed it all right there. Like, I create a persona for myself. This is my grift. I have to stick to it.
God made me this way. God made me this way, dude. Fuck you.
You have 5 minutes to respond to this, and I'll have 3 minutes to respond to that. Some would argue that a society without religion at its core would devolve into a nihilistic society, deprived of any meaning or purpose. How would you prevent in your society, non-Christian nationalist governing society, from devolving into a
No such thing as think about the universe is.
Let's look at the societies that Christians build, and you tell me where you want to live. Is it Abu Dhabi? Is it the Congo? Is it Sparta? Or is it Western Europe, maybe 50 years ago? I know where I'd rather be.
Einstein said it like this: the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is comprehensibility. So the idea.
Wait, there you go. He just said it. Einstein. Listen to this. Did you hear the quote he just made?
or I'd rather be.
Einstein said it like this: the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is comprehensibility.
I mean,
The idea that there isn't an answer is completely outside of this
Yeah.
person's view of the world. It is incomprehensible to him that something
God,
cannot be known. There has
So-
to be an answer.
like someone
And then
just
he,
needs,
you know what he would say? Hold real quick. What he would say to that is like, well, that's why they call it faith. It's like, yeah, but it's not
No,
blind
dude,
faith. If you read your
dude.
fucking scripture, you know that it's not supposed to be blind. And
No
it's
one
not an
ha-
answer for everything. It's okay not to know, you douchebag.
Yeah, no, dude, that's exactly what I was gonna say. No one ever in this guy's life bothered sitting down and just put their hands on his shoulders just to tell him it is okay to say I don't know.
Oh, no.
God, you know?
So the idea here is that you're going to have to posit some kind of mind in order to posit some kind of purpose, that there has to be a design.
I love it, dude. Like that's why he calls himself the indie thinkers, because that explanation of logic right there, isn't that great? I mean,
Right.
the funny thing is, if I ever did talk logical fallacies with him, I'd be like, do you realize that the concept of God in today's world only exists because it constitutes the fallacy of ignorance? It's like all it does is explain the inexplicable. Like that's kind of anyway.
Yeah.
Design in
Literally.
order for there to be meaning. There is no such thing as meaning to this life if there is not a person who created ultimate meaning. Now we can.
No, that's not
do
even
people-
true.
Do people, I mean, like, what about the natural instincts to, like, take care of your kids? Like, do people with kids have
Yeah.
automatic moral value?
Seriously, if there was no God, is the meaning of life now to worship your parents? The fact that your parents gave birth to you, like, does that automatically mean your life has meaning? No. So why would that apply to the God that you believe in? Like, what? There's only God. I'm gonna.
We can try to find
I can't. I
an arbitrary
can't.
meaning in our daily tasks in life, but there's no ultimate meaning that we all share in this life. And without that, I'm not sure that we hold together as a society. One of the things that truly brings a society together, and this brings us back to the whole conversation about Christianity and society, one of the things that holds us together as a society is shared morality. That shared morality is the thing that we can share in common. Belief in the dignity of the individual, the intrinsic value of the individual, even
As long as it's a Christian morality.
Sure.
the brotherhood of mankind. But the problem is that secular humanism doesn't give you any of those things. You know what does? Christianity does.
Why does
Are you
secular-
kidding
why-
me?
then-
That's such a
then have a-
lie.
Okay,
That
if
is
that's
a
true.
lie.
So I challenged him to a debate, and he, like, gave me, when you get bigger, let me know or whatever. And he ended up blocking me, so it's too bad. But, and I don't think he'd ever debate me anyway. But it's like, you obviously know nothing about secular humanism if that's how you feel about it.
Yeah,
And
no, for
if you're
real.
gonna have a real man, okay, because remember, these are not grown-ups. This is a little boy we're looking at here.
Yeah,
This is not a
right.
This is psychologically speaking, this is not a grown-up. Okay.
Yeah,
Like a little boy, he's not gonna have a secular humanist on because he's worried he's gonna get smoked on his own channel.
exactly. Exactly.
So we'll see. Well, maybe someday, Reed.
Yeah, it's like
So if Christ-
he's only name dropping secular humanism because he sees that as an affront to his beliefs. He sees that as a natural enemy because he can't have his fucking beliefs challenged, which is why he blocked your ass.
Or there is no challenge to be had. Like there is those
If
bumpers.
he probably is that fucking arrogant. Yeah.
There's like, and also too, like you see those bumper stickers that say coexist on them, right?
Mhm.
Which is what you're really talking about. There's that cliche that says, "Ain't no kind of hate like Christian love."
Right.
But
That's-
Christianity has
love
actually
it.
been the moral glue that has held our society together, and the reason that we're fraying at the edges right now as more and more people flee Christianity. Then the real question is Christian
Yawn.
nationalism really a problem? Let me give you kind of an example. It's often stated that on November 27th, 1095, Pope Urban II's speech at the Council of Clarence
Okay, so too, this is also very entitled behavior, because he's like, is Christian nationalism actually a problem? Now, let's give him a little bit of credit and say that he actually thinks of Christian nationalism as a positive thing. He thinks about it in a cultural way, not like actually making Christianity the official religion of the United States or anything like that. Like just bringing us back to Christian values. But he goes off. Anyway, let's keep watching. Sorry.
Yeah.
Claremont started the Crusades. You can see that from the text of the speech, it would be more accurate to say that the Crusades were started by the Muslims many years before, and that Urban's appeal was nothing more than a call for Christians to respond to a world that was tearing the world apart. Urban said this.
Wow.
Some of the Christians
So
they have
you're
carried away as
telling
slaves.
me-
Others they have put to death. The churches they have.
You're telling me that you're literally going to pull the. You don't have to rewind it. You're telling me you're going
I wanna
to
hear
pull
something of this. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no, you're going to tell me that like the Crusades were all about look what you made me do. You've got to be kidding me. That is some just high level cope if I've ever seen anything. Like if I've ever seen any such cope, like wow, because Muslims existed, we just had to kill all of them because they don't believe in the same God as we do. Yeah, the Muslims started the Crusades. That's a whopper, buddy.
I want to make sure I give love to our loyal viewer, Thunderbird, who just gave me a message. The Holocaust was a religious war between Christians and Jews. Read God and the Fascists by Karl-Heinz Deschner, 1965. And then he has some quote at the end, Gott mit uns. I don't know what that means. Hopefully it's not some sort of slur. Thank you, Thunderbird, for the message, but I actually don't think that's correct. My understanding is that it was actually white people racism that really was at the engine of the culture war that led within Germany to like think of themselves as better and superior to other races. They invaded the Polish because they thought of themselves as superior to them.
Right.
So, they might have invoked, he says, God with us. Yeah, they might have invoked God in their language or whatever, but it wasn't, they didn't, if they were all about, Christianity, if World War II was Crusades 3.0,
it was all secondary.
it would have been like all over the propaganda and stuff. No, absolutely not.
They just utilized it because it was convenient for them. It gave them justification for it. Like and that's what a lot of fucking like Christians, and fascists in general do today. They call this and that degenerate or abominations, and then just hide behind like some vague Christian notion about it in order to justify their fucking ignorant and irrational and bigoted beliefs, like I said earlier. And the same went for the Nazis.
Belief in the dignity of the individual, the intrinsic value of the individual, even the brotherhood of
the dignity of the individual and intrinsic value of the individual, because you're not going to find those values in secular humanism. Give me a break.
Right.
mankind. But the problem is that secular humanism doesn't give you any of those things. You know what does? Christianity does.
Right on cue.
Sure.
I haven't watched this. I haven't watched this.
So if Christianity has actually been the moral glue that has held our society together and the reason that we're fraying at the edges right now as more and more people flee Christianity, then the real question is Christian nationalism really a problem? Let me give you kind of an example. It's often stated that on November 27th, 1095, Pope Urban II.
Sorry, I actually did rewind. I cheated.
The Council of Claremont started the Crusades. You can see that from the text of the speech, it would be more accurate to say that the Crusades were started by the Muslims many years before, and that Urban's appeal was nothing more than a call for Christians to respond to a world that was tearing the world apart. Urban said this. Some of the Christians they have carried away as slaves. Others they have put to death. The churches they have either destroyed or turned into mosques. They have desecrated and overthrown the altars. They circumcised Christians and poured their blood from that circumcision on the altars and baptismal fonts. Some they kill in a horrible way by cutting open their abdomen, taking out a part of their entrails, tying it to a stake, and then beat them and compel them to walk until all their entrails are drawn out and fall into the ground.
That is what is known from here on out as Christian theatricality. They use violence like that to invoke the seriousness of their message and how they are entitled to intellectual respect because their knowledge is so important. Look at the historical context from which it comes. a
I mean,
violent past, and this might happen today if you don't get down with Christianity.
dude, it's so gross because we're literally 30. Like we only got a couple minutes left. We're 30 minutes in, and he hasn't made like an actual like single point that reinforces like his ideology and why it is justified, why it is worth following, why he is worth listening to, and his words are worth accepting. It's like right here, you nailed it. It comes down to invoking and instilling fear of violence. And of course, it's vague. He's just pointing to like a scripture historical tidbit, but it doesn't matter. His ideas.
So there's Urban talking.
No, yeah, his ideas are sacrosanct and should be like catered to in a way because of this. Like it's gross. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm down for blacklisting. I mean, I think we should have enemies of the Southern Poverty Law Center has a hate group thing. Like, let's do that. Just like a tier down, like public figures who are just not to be respected. And Ben Shapiro's number one.
Talking about what Muslims are doing to Christians at the time. And I know what you're thinking. That peaceful religion doesn't sound so peaceful, and you should know this.
No shit.
Much like the call of Urban long ago, today Christians are facing a battle that is similar in at least similar, not in violence, but similar in need of a response. The battle we face today is not physical, but rather ideological. Much like in that day, Christians were hesitant to fight. They had to be convinced by Urban to do so. But the woke neo-Marxists of today have overplayed their hand. In the past, they'd been mostly unopposed, and they thought that they could get away with murder, literally, and it finally caught up to the attention of Christians. Marxists shoved their DEI down the throat of everyone trying to racialize everything, even airline travel.
I have never seen a black woman fly a plane.
It wasn't enough for them to destroy the definition of marriage. They wanted to parade naked down the street every June for the kids to enjoy. They wanted fat men in dresses twerking in public libraries for the kiddos, and they wanted to march children into gender
Look at these anecdotes. Anecdote Andy right here. Oh, just goddamn, dude. Wow. Who cares?
Freaks, geeks, and weirdos, man. They care because they're losers. They don't have anything going on in their lives that makes them happy.
Because they've lost. You know what Christians have been losing. You know what the war that they've been losing in the past several years. The war in the marketplace of ideas. Because none of their shit's holding up anymore. Because they've been outsmarted by smarter people that they've come across on the internet, and they cannot handle it. That's why this guy's an apologist.
Well, I think honestly, Christianity would have more of a chance with people if they would get over sex before marriage, or no sex before marriage. If they would just get rid of no sex before marriage, and obviously abortion, then they would be fine. They would be much not fine, but they would have a chance, I should say.
Or stop trying to apply your religious beliefs in a legislative sense, or like try to pass
that's you
policies
talking.
based...
No. Go to normie behavior, high school experience. That's when you're going to have a chance at getting someone. That's when you're going to have a chance at getting someone to become a Christian is like late high school, early college, and the only chance you're going to have, I'm telling all you Christians out there that want to create other Christians and go forth and multiply, is you're going to have to get rid of no sex before marriage, and you're going to have to get over abortion if they're an educated or urban or suburban person. Because unless they're white trash Bible beaters, like you're not going to have a chance.
It is gross. Like I still like all over the town that I work at. Like I still see like pro-life across America billboards all the fucking time. Like there's multiple of them. It's like, God, no one wants to see that shit, dude.
And they won't. And they're down to have the child be born, but then as soon as it is, they don't want to put up the social services necessary for that child to have any chance in a cutthroat capitalist economy.
Yeah.
All right, let's see how he's gonna bring it home. I'm telling you, Reed is a smart guy. He's a talented guy. Rudolph Reed, baby.
And castrate them. all while public intellectuals like Neil deGrasse Tyson try to convince us that this is logical.
Why are we doing this?
Because people are mostly boys and girls?
But why split them entering a school building?
Because they pee differently? Jesus Christ, I have to explain this?
No.
Christians who are mostly kind and generally weak people were fine.
You know how psyched he was to have a Bill Maher clip that he could use? He's like, hey, look, this guy's pretty mainstream. This guy's saying stuff like I'm saying. I should be bigger.
Yeah, only the most smug, anti-intellectual fucking, like, out there right now.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, I mean, I think we got to let go of any expectation that either of us will ever be on Bill Maher.
Of course.
And,
I don't, yeah,
and
no, of course.
Shame on.
I
Shame
don't want to fucking talk to
you know,
him.
But shame on like Comedy Central, and it was obviously because. And anyway, Bill Maher should have been replaced a while ago. It's not.
Yeah.
It's beneath the HBO brand. There are a lot of good people out there that he could have been replaced with. Anyway, let's get back to Reed real quick.
We're fine sitting back, going to church and praying in their closets. But when gross injustice is taking place, kind and generally weak people, we're fine sitting back, going to church and praying in their closets. But when gross injustice is taking place in our country, by that same scripture that calls us to pray in our closet, it also calls us to speak out and to change the world for the better. So if that's what Christian nationalism is, then label me that. But you were probably going to do that anyway, regardless of what I say, and that's something you'll have to look down.
Oh, victimhood. Oh, you were probably going to do it anyway because you're so mean. Grow up, you fucking pussy.
And see if that sounds right to you. I would rather think that it's a better use of your time to consider the value and the virtue of Christian scripture on society. I suspect that will be much more fruitful. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And go.
All right.
Oh God. Oh,
that
God.
was
What
that.
an-
I
what
mean,
an asshole.
I would say that was a waste of time if we didn't get content out of that, which we clearly did. Like, but like, my God, he just had nothing to say at all, at all. Honestly, like that.
Well, he regurgitates a lot of talking points that work, and
that's it.
There's
yeah,
formulaic.